go ahead and meet Sanjeev. He's based out of San Francisco, so that's where I'm also based. He has a long track record of building and managing high-performance and scalable software engineering teams across multiple geographies. And interestingly, he holds a BS degree in microbiology from San Francisco State University. And as you can see, a few more interesting facts about him up there. He's authored 2 patents, which is awesome. And prior to zAgile, he served as VP of engineering at several companies, a lot of them which have either been acquired or the software has been acquired by a lot larger companies, as you can see at the bottom there. So with that, Sanjeev, I'm going to turn it over to you, and we'll get started.
Thank you, Morgan. That was very generous. Greetings, everyone. Can you guys, Morgan, can everyone see the screen?
It'll be popping up in just a moment. There it goes. Yep.
Okay. So we'll get started. What I wanted to do in terms of, let's talk about the agenda. I'd like to, first talk a little bit about zAgile, our vision, and what's driving us in terms of our product offerings, and then describe briefly some of the products, and then go right into the teamwork demo. And as Morgan said, we'll do a brief Q&A after that. So zAgile is a crystallization of my experience in software engineering. As Morgan had mentioned, I've played a variety of different roles for organizations of all sizes over the last 25 years. And the experiences primarily are something that will resonate with everyone, and they're all around some of the problems that we encounter in application lifecycle management related to information breakdowns. zAgile was founded in late 2006, and earlier this year we launched our first product, which is Wicked Smart plugin for Confluence. We'll talk a little bit about that also, and you'll see a lot more of it in the demo. And Wicked Smart is already in use by dozens of organizations out there. It's an open source product available on SourceForge. And so let's talk briefly about the problem, just to give everyone context around what we are doing strategically and in terms of our vision. So the problem is really the software engineering, what we call the Achilles heel for software engineering. What you end up seeing in most organizations is siloed teams, whether or not they're distributed, remote, or whether they're teams that are even working within a particular physical area. They end up being very siloed, QA versus product management versus engineering versus marketing and so on. What makes it happen is the fact that engineering primarily, for most part, it consists of a hodgepodge of heterogeneous tools with a whole lot of information breakdown because of fragmentation. And all of this results in collaboration being very, very ineffective. Tools, and by heterogeneous tools, I mean QA uses their tools and product management uses tools, to capture their requirements documents and so on. Engineering uses, their own, or development uses their own tool sets for what they need to do. But a consistent flow across these, from requirements to development tasks to test cases and test documents and so on, is very rarely achievable. So this is really the problem that we wanted to tackle. And so the mission of the company itself is to unify not just the tools or information within the tools, but unify the environment itself, so the teams, tools, processes, and knowledge. Now, let's talk about how it comes together. So here, what you're looking at is a very high-level view of our architecture for information integration. And it basically, at the bottom, you'll see consists of the zAgile infrastructure, which allows through plugins, through tool-specific plugins, it allows for integration of information from these tools. And then, of course, up above here, this is the WickedSmart plugin for Confluence. So you can start to see a very integrated information being rendered in the wiki itself, as we'll show you in the demo. So right now, zAgile Teamwork consists of plugins for JIRA and Confluence. And we also have, we will be delivering soon plugins for various other tools for managing, for build automation, for example, for test case management, requirements management, version control, and so on. So the key characteristics here, the key points are, first of all, our infrastructure is open source, and our intent is to support a community that will participate in developing plugins. So there's an ecosystem of plugins that will evolve over time, plugins for various tools that organizations would use. We are making available, so on Monday, zAgile Teamwork will be released, and we're making available, commercially available plugins for Confluence and JIRA that are integrated together. This is what you're going to see today. And this integration and interoperability is essentially a starting point for how you could see all the other tools and information coming together using this particular framework. So there are two things here that we're going to talk primarily about. One is the WickedSmart itself, which is a Confluence plugin. And WickedSmart adds structure and consistency to the wiki content. It allows you to manage the content easily, but it also allows you to access the content outside of the wiki and integrate it with other tools. And then the JIRA plugin itself, as I mentioned earlier, which is basically to now start to tie wiki-based content with project and task management that you normally use JIRA for. And so combination of these two together begins to give you a solution for application lifecycle management. And again, as I mentioned earlier, the plugin ecosystem will continue to allow deep interoperability between various tools within your environment. So in terms of products that we will focus on, first we have WickedSmart, which is the semantic wiki engine for Confluence itself. And WickedSmart addresses some very key challenges that enterprise wikis face. They have to do with accessibility, which is basically when you have thousands and thousands of pages in a wiki, then it becomes harder to figure out where information might exist or where a particular page or topic that you may be looking for, unless you already are aware of the hierarchical organization of your wiki itself. And when you cross boundaries within an organization across departments, that becomes very, very difficult. Reliability. Now, reliability refers to content becoming stale if it's not constantly being updated. Maintainability, of course, that means that all cross-references, links, and stuff across pages have to be maintained diligently. And if they're not maintained, then content becomes unreliable. And of course, the last bullet point, integratability, is really a reference to being able to tie the information that you're capturing in the wiki with other information that exists in other tools. So what WickedSmart does is addresses all of these points. And primarily, it turns Confluence into a semi-structured wiki. So it's not imposing anything. You can still use wikis the way you normally do. But we are providing some technology that allows you to capture some part of your content that you desire in a semi-structured way that becomes then easily integratable within the wiki itself and outside of it. So, through forms, for example, as you'll see, you can enter content in a more consistent manner. We have smart search which allows you to access information quickly and precisely. And then there's also technology that I will show you, which allows for the overall maintenance to be significantly reduced within the wiki pages, because the information becomes more dynamically rendered and it becomes more real time. And of course, you can access now information from other tools within Confluence very easily. And so fundamentally, I mean, the potential of this technology is to turn Confluence into an information portal. And the next product, which I mentioned we will be releasing on Monday, is really a combination of WiketSmart plugin for Confluence, along with our infrastructure and the JIRA plugin. So between these three components, what you end up with is basically a solution for application lifecycle management, particularly for agile teams. So underlying all of this, as you saw before, is our framework, which integrates tools and information. So when you're investing in teamwork, what you're investing in is an infrastructure that will, on an ongoing basis, provide you with the capability to integrate other tools as connectors become available. So with the infrastructure in place and the JIRA and Confluence plugin, when we release connectors, for example, for cruise control or Subversion or Fisheye or any of the other tools, you'll be able to basically integrate all of them using the same mechanisms, and you will see the effects of it that I will show you in WiketSmart itself. And so, as I mentioned, in terms of WiketSmart, the smart templates we are providing with Teamwork for requirements and test case management. So this is to start to give you some capability within Confluence itself now, where if you do not have other tools that you're using for requirements and test case management, you can actually do that in the wiki itself. Although the zAgile infrastructure is tool agnostic. So if you have tools that you already use for managing requirements or test cases, then you can integrate those tools also, provided the connectors are available for them. If you don't have them, then you can do some very basic stuff, as I'll show you, just using the wiki itself. And so within, as part of Teamwork, what we're also bundling is the knowledge models for agile application lifecycle management. And so this is essentially underlying, supporting the infrastructure. It's basically the Metamodels that connect requirements with test cases, with projects and tasks and so on. And so that when you're capturing information from JIRA and when you're capturing information from Confluence, it starts to integrate it in a very meaningful way. And of course, the JIRA plugin itself, which integrates projects and tasks with all of the things that we've mentioned already, to give you a very consistent and contextual information, regardless of whether you're looking at the wiki or whether you're looking at JIRA. So let's now quickly go into the demo. And here's the use case that I'm going to show you. We will create a project in JIRA, and then we will go to Confluence and do a number of things. We will, using smart templates, and these are actually extensions of scaffolding macros provided by Customware that we have leveraged. And we are using these to start capturing information from Confluence within our repository. We'll create project overview document, design goals, use cases, requirements document, which will contain a number of requirement items, test specification document, and test cases and test suites. And then we will basically now begin to create tasks in JIRA, and I will show you how you can very easily link those tasks using custom fields that are automatically created for you with all these different artifacts that you've created in the wiki itself. And then we will show you how all of this information now becomes integrated and accessible very easily, and you can navigate from any particular object to any other object. So from a requirement to its related task, and from a task to its related project, and so on. And finally, we will talk about search, our smart search, which from within Confluence allows you to access very specific information, regardless of whether it exists in Confluence or JIRA. So let's now quickly move to the demo. So first of all, what I'm going to do, as I mentioned before, is let's create a project here. Okay, so let's do that. So let's start creating with a project in JIRA. Thanks, Morgan. So we'll just create one, let's say, zAgile Atlassian webinar demo. Okay, so ZWD. And then I will assign this to myself. So now I've created a project in JIRA. Now I'm going to move over to Confluence. So we'll go to a particular space, template examples, where we've created a bunch of templates. So when you start to look at this page itself, let me explain what you're looking at here. So first of all, this is just a landing page for this particular space. But the list that you're seeing here, all of these items are rendered via queries. So here, for example, I have example projects, example requirements, test cases, and documents, for instance. So I can create any type of queries, and this is basically using a standard spec, a SQL-like query language here. And so you can already see, for example, that the project that I just defined in JIRA is showing up here in the list. So again, this is to start to show you examples of how information automatically becomes accessible across applications. And what's important to note here is that these queries here are not querying JIRA directly. What they're querying is the repository itself. So when I created a project in JIRA, the JIRA connectors captured relevant information related to that project within the repository. And now when I query for all projects, for example, I will see that in here also. And there's a whole lot of other projects, obviously, JIRA projects that are also within the repository. And if I were to click on this project itself, you will see some basic properties of the project that we've captured, like description, code, who it's created by. And then there's other things here, and this is, again, what you're looking at is a templated view that is very easily customizable. But requirements, for example, design goals, use cases, and so on, software components associated with the project, artifacts, test cases, bugs, all of that will show up in this properties page as we start to link the project with other artifacts and other objects. So now let's take the second step and create a project overview document here. So rather than creating one from scratch, I will take an existing document and I will just go into edit mode and associate it with our project. So this here now, what you're looking at is basically our smart templates. So as I mentioned earlier, we're using the scaffolding plugin that we've extended for this purpose. So in this particular template, and these templates are all obviously very customizable based on what information you want to capture and how. But here, for example, I've got an project overview document. So I'm extending whatever information that I've captured about the project in JIRA here within the wiki by adding some additional information about it. So I want to add business case, dependencies, and risks related to the project. And I'm also going to associate the project. So here, for example, you can also see that the project shows up in this list. So all of the projects that are in JIRA will show up in this particular list box here. And I can choose zAW demo project and save it. So you will see again that the information, the project information that I had, or the project description that I had added in JIRA is automatically pulled here just for the purpose of reference, along with the project code itself. And so if I choose a different project, then its information will be rendered in this particular document. So what I've done here is basically two or three things. One, I've created an overview page, or project overview document, if you will, in a consistent way using semi-structured forms. I've also defined the category for that page and a type. All of these are relevant in terms of their integration with each other. So for example, if you just click on the project that I selected, if you click on the project link itself, it will take you to the same properties page that we saw earlier, but now you'll see that this particular document is automatically linked to that project, and it shows up here. So as we link other artifacts, as I mentioned earlier, requirements and use cases to the project, they will start showing up on this list here. Moreover, actually, let's go back to JIRA for a second and browse the project. So let's look at the project that we just created, zAW demo. So through our JIRA plugin, we have now provided a properties tab. And this properties tab is also very customizable using just an XML file. And when I click on the properties tab, it will give me properties associated with our project. And here we have chosen to display a few things that maybe the developers might want to have access to within JIRA itself: documents, software components, design goals, etc. And you can see that we have linked an overview document, and so it shows up in this list here. So this begins to show you how information becomes very consistently integrated as you start to relate different objects or artifacts that you're creating through the life cycle. So now let's create another document. So in this case, we have a technical specification document. So just as an example for this particular demo, I took a document from W3C, and I've just captured it as an iframe in here to make it a little bit more real. But I've got a summary subject, some content for this document, and then I've also typed it, meaning that it's a technical specification document, and it has some source and copyright information and so on. And of course, all of that is done using our templates. So I can go into edit mode, and I can change the summary or subject or any information. But here, again, you'll start to see, for example, that I have access to all of the projects that within the system. So I've chosen to link the document to a single project. And then I can also get a list of all subdocuments or all other documents that exist within the system if I want to create a master subdocument relationship between them. In this case, it's not relevant, so I'll just save it as is. And so now I have basically created a technical specification document and associated with that project. And of course, if you were to refresh this, you will see that particular document showing up here also. Similarly, we continue forward, and as I mentioned earlier, we have provided a number of different templates that are easily extendable or customizable for creating various types of artifacts within your organization. So for example, design goals. So here again, using these templates, you can capture design goals for a particular project, you can capture all these design goals on a page, and then you can associate each one to a particular project. So here, for example, I took, again, examples from W3C, and you've got a design goal, some description, and then you can associate each goal with a particular project. So let's go and quickly do that. So I'll only actually connect a few of these and then save them. So now what we have chosen to do is we've taken a bunch of design goals and we've said, okay, we're going to associate those design goals with this particular project. So what I continue to show you is that at any point in time, you can link on any of these relations, and you can see properties associated with that particular object. So again, I click on the project, and now it will show me that it has certain design goals associated with it, and these are the artifacts that we have captured. And this is something that you're looking at. It's a Confluence page, and what you're looking at is information about a project which is created in JIRA, but the information about that project is existing in JIRA and Confluence, and so this is basically giving you a more cohesive view of it. And at any point in time, you can click on the See Also link, and it will take you directly to the JIRA project. And you can go to the properties page, and you will see in JIRA now the design goals that have been linked to the project itself and the documents associated with it. So now let's go to use cases. So again, using templates, you can capture use cases. So here, in the same manner as design goals, we've added a bunch of use cases, for example. So let's associate them with this particular project. The templates themselves and the relationships between, like, for example, design goals and use cases to projects, all of these are configurable. This is, again, I want to emphasize the fact that this does not mandate that you do things in a certain way, that you have design goals or you have use cases. It simply is giving you examples of how you can use this particular infrastructure and this capability to link information between your tools and your environment. So here I've taken a bunch of use cases and I have now linked them to this particular project. The other thing that's really important also to note is that while this is just a wiki page, normally if you were to create sections of use cases, for example, it isn't so easy to access each one of these as an individual entity. But in this particular case, you're seeing, for example, that at any point in time I click on the project, I'm actually not seeing the page itself so much as I'm seeing all the individual items on the page as their own individual entities. So for example, these are the use cases that I've just linked to the project itself, and they show up here. And then finally, I will do the same with requirements. So what I've got is a requirements document here. And the requirements document consists of some information, some summary description information, and it consists of a bunch of requirement items here. And so I will do the same thing. And now the requirement items, what we have chosen to do for this particular demo, they are tied to design goals. So design goals are a motivation for a particular requirement, and of course they are associated with a project. Okay, so I will do the same thing here. I'll go in edit mode, and I've already associated the design goals here, for example, but now I will create the links with the project. The other thing you will also see is that I've now captured author and reviewer information here. This information comes from, it can come from, for example, Active Directory or LDAP, if you choose to, wherever you're capturing information about your team. or you can just create a team within Confluence itself using these templates, as we have done. And so now I can actually capture information related to the people on my team. And in this particular case, their roles relative to this particular document. So I'm the author, and Andrew and Felipe are the reviewers of this document. So I want to capture that. And what I will do here is, again, go and associate each one of the requirements items with this particular project. So, and the other thing actually I will also show you at the bottom here is in this particular template that consists of requirements document with a bunch of requirement items, we also have a query because whenever over time we look at this particular page, we want to be able to see right here any tasks that have been assigned to any particular requirements as the development cycle moves forward. So, and this is again just for demonstration purposes only. So as I go into JIRA and I associate the requirements with the tasks, you'll start to see the information show up in Confluence itself. So for now, what I've done is I've created a requirements document up here. I have, established the author and reviewers of this document, and I have linked the requirement items with design goals and project. Okay, and I'll save that. And as you can see, as you would expect, at any point in time, you look at, for example, Sanjeev. It will tell you where that person's defined within the system. In this case, we just did that on a wiki page. So if I clicked on properties for myself, it will give me all the different documents that I've authored, all the documents that I've reviewed, any tasks that have been assigned to me, any tasks that I've reported, and so on and so forth. And again, all of this view that you're looking at is all fully customizable. But at any point in time, the point that I want to emphasize is that you're looking at very, very integrated information here. So here we've captured the requirements document and items and so on. And I will show you, for example, test cases and test suites. So for instance, we have templates that allow you to create test cases. So you can, for example, create a requirement in a particular template and associate test cases with it right on the same page. So this is just using a different template here, where we're saying we're going to create a requirement, and now we're going to associate the requirements with test cases as we develop it. So here you'll see a requirement for 30-second startup. This is an example taken from Fedora. So it's planned for a project. It has a particular type associated with it, authors, reviewers, and down below here, it has test cases. So when I click on a plus button, I'll create another test case, and so on and so forth. And so I can associate test cases within the wiki itself, and with the requirement. So quickly, in the interest of time, moving on now to JIRA. So the things that we wanted to show you, for example, again, if I click on the property, if I refresh the properties page for the project, you will see now that it has design goals, requirements associated with it, it has use cases, all of the things that we have created in the wiki and linked to this particular project. So now let's, for example, create a task, a development task. So what we will do is, okay, I need to refresh this. So I'm going to create a development task for zAW demo project. And this is, again, what I wanted to show you and what I discussed earlier, is that when I create a task now, there are custom fields that will automatically associate the task with requirement items and use cases and stuff that have been associated with this particular project. So in this case, for example, and these custom fields are auto-populated. So for example, I can create custom fields here. I can associate use cases here, for example, for this, for this particular demo project. And I can just say implement use cases, assign it to a developer, and then save this. So now you'll see that this task is automatically linked to these two use cases, this development tasks. And I can do the same thing with the requirements that I may associate with this particular project, as well as I can relate tasks to bugs and so on. And again, this is completely accessible. So if I click on that link, it will take me to that particular use case that I had associated with the project and the task itself. And if I click on the use case, it would give me information about properties about the use case itself, what its relations are to other requirements, if any, which project it's planned for. And now you can also see, again, within Confluence, this use case is assigned to a particular task, a development task. So now, so this is basically, again, summarizing what I have done so far. I've created a project in JIRA. I've gone into Confluence. I've created a bunch of different artifacts, requirements, use cases, specifications, documents, and so on. And at all points, I continue to see contextually all information that's tied to a particular artifact, for example. And finally, when I come back into JIRA to start creating test cases, tasks, I can start to automatically see all of the requirements that are assigned to the project that will be easy for me to link to those tasks. So all of this stuff that you normally do in terms of manually capturing links across these applications, for example, is now automatically done for you. And finally, I want to show you smart search. So a very, very critical and important manifestation of this level of integration, information integration, is in the form of search. And so what we have done is we've implemented what we call smart search or semantic search in Confluence. So let's take a look at this for a few minutes. So this search is very different. It's a very different paradigm than normal search, because normally when you search for something, you're basically able to only provide keywords, and it will match against either content or labels or tags within a particular page. And it will give you the page back, but you don't really have a sense of what the type of that page is. And you also cannot specify if you want to look for a specific object. So here in this particular case, for example, in our semantic search, what we have actually is is a search that is driven by a type. So for example, if I'm looking for a JIRA project, then I will only get information back about JIRA projects. And again, this is in Confluence, but if I'm searching for projects, then it will give me information about projects. And here, for example, you can see this zAW demo project, for instance. That's the project that I had just defined in JIRA itself. You can see information about others, for example, Wicked Smart, and all the other projects that exist. What's important to note here is that, first of all, I am getting back specific objects that I seek, in this case project, but I'm also getting back information related to these objects, any other properties or relationships. So for example, OWL implementation, it will tell me which requirements are implemented in it. It'll tell me what the test cases are, for example, what documents are associated with it, who the author or the creator of the project is. And at any point in time, for example, I can continue to navigate here. So if I click on test cases, it will tell me about test cases and some properties associated with it and what project the test cases are related to. For example, if I click on the requirement, for instance, it will tell me something about that requirement item, that it's described in this document, it's implemented in this project, and it's related to this design goal. And again, if I click on the design goal here, it will give me some information about the design goal and which requirements it's related to and so on and so forth. So here, this design goal, as I can see, is related to a number of different requirement items, and I can continue to navigate across. So the search is demonstrating a very, very powerful capability, but in terms of how information is all connected underneath in the repository itself and is rendered in our framework or through our framework. And basically, it's a manifestation of what you have seen already before, which is information is accessible in a very unified way across all tools, regardless of where you're looking at. If you go to the Properties tab in JIRA, you see the same information. If you go to Confluence Properties page, you'll see the same information and so on. So the same thing here, if I go and say I want to look for documents, I will only get information that about documents. So Wicked Smart Overview or Direct Model Theoretical Semantics, which is a technical specification document. So I get information about documents. If I click on, if I want to look for requirement, for example, again, you will see that I will only get information related to requirements, or let's say a test case, for example. So it will now give me all information about test cases that exist and everything about a test case. So here, for example, is a test suite, and it's related to this particular requirement. It's part of some other test suite, and and so on and so forth. So I can, at any point in time when I'm looking at its relation to other things, I can also go directly to that particular page where that component may be defined. So I think that pretty much does it in terms of the demo. Let's now go back and in terms of follow-up and next steps. So basically, as I mentioned earlier, the product that you looked at, the demo that you saw is zAgile Teamwork. It will be available on Monday. We have a sandbox out there that you can access. Sandbox is, you can go to www.zagile.com. Oops. And in the sandbox, you'll see all of this capability. If you don't want to download and go through the installation process yourself or your evaluation, but you will also have on Monday the evaluation version of zAgile Teamwork available for your own downloads and trials. And other things to mention, we are offering training classes on a number of different topics. As Morgan had mentioned earlier, I have a lot of experience in software engineering, particularly running distributed teams across countries. Even now, zAgile has distributed development teams in several countries in South America. And so with all this experience, I have also advised organizations on how they can both implement and run their offshore development organizations. And then, of course, the other topics, around Wicked Smart plugin for Confluence and how you can leverage Confluence as a semi-structured knowledge repository. and also achieving collaboration between Wiki and JIRA for your agile application lifecycle management. So with that, I'd like to thank everyone for their time and move on to questions.
All right, thank you, Sanjeev. I'll just take the controls back over here. And as we said at the beginning of the presentation, if you guys have any questions, please just chat them in, and I'll go ahead and start asking those. And it looks like we have a few questions that did pop up. Let me just get those ready. Okay. The first one is kind of very general. Did WiketSmart come out of the needs of customers or your own needs?
Well, it's a good question. Actually, it's a combination of both. I mean, it's an experience that I've had in my own organizations in the past in terms of the fact that, we had wikis in place, but, their reliability over time gradually went down because it was very difficult to constantly maintain content. And then also, what we have seen over the last 2 or 3 years, we've talked to a lot of different customers or prospects, for example, and their normal frustrations about integrating information across. We're also seeing opportunities where people want to use Confluence, for example, in this case, and they want to manage requirements and test cases within Confluence in some simple ways without going to more sophisticated applications. And this is one way for them to integrate. So we're addressing a lot of things that we're hearing also from the market.
Okay. And then along the same lines, how many customers roughly would you estimate are currently using the WiketSmart plugin for Confluence?
Well, WiketSmart, it was available in the open source community over the past, in I think February, March timeframe. And we've had several hundred downloads. So there's actually a couple of things there. One is that primarily people are focused around our key value proposition around software engineering, because those were the templates and the models that we provided. But people are also using WiketSmart in other domains outside of software engineering. So we've had interest from, for example, from one particular organization that's involved in digital library content, and another one that's consumer packaged goods, where they want to capture product information in the wiki in Confluence, and significant interest in biomedical and pharmaceutical domains for capturing structured content within wiki related to those particular products.
Yeah. Good. Here's a question we got in. What are the steps to create a new type of artifact? Examples of products, companies, patents.
Okay, so good question. Also, the Metamodel underneath determines the type of information that can be captured, the types of attributes that can be captured, and so. For software engineering artifacts, for example, it's simple because the Metamodel exists. Then it's simply a matter of just creating templates or using the templates that we provide. So we actually have a documentation on macros, that are used for creating templates, so that you can use for creating your own templates, or you can use any of the ones that exist and modify them appropriately. But for example, when it comes to things like patents, it may require either to extend the Metamodel to capture information or attributes related to patents, or that's specific to patents. That could be easily done. And then if it's really outside of the domain of artifacts, for example, then you create your own models, if you will, or schemas. But the short answer is As long as the schema underneath supports the attributes that you want to capture, then it's simply a matter of creating templates, and it's a fairly simple process to create templates.
Okay. And then a few people chatted in. They're interested in the training courses that you mentioned. Have those been posted yet, or is it going to be after a Monday when this product is released, or how can people get more information on the training courses?
Yeah, those will be posted actually later today.
Okay, on your website?
On our website, yeah.
Okay, that's good. And then here is a more specific question. Does zAgile use or can it integrate with Eclipse so that perhaps one could use an Eclipse-based view workspace to compose or even refactor requirements and test cases, or even be able to automatically infer contextual information in conjunction with Myelin to automatically create semantic linkages instead of relying on manually traceability linking? So can it integrate with Eclipse is the bottom line.
Yes, great question. Actually, it can, yes, it can, and it simply requires a connector to Eclipse. It's something that we've been thinking about, but it's just been a matter of priorities. So it can be done. It's actually very easy to do, and it is possible that there may already either likely to be some community level support for it, someone else developing Eclipse connectors based on our infrastructure, or it's something that we would do. But it wouldn't be very difficult. I mean, it can definitely be done. And actually, I'd be curious about specific use cases there. So whomever's asking the question, if we can find out more about what you are interested in, that would help us also.
Yeah, and just to let people know, after some questions, I will present some contact info. So any other questions or use cases like that, you can send them in directly. So that's good. Here's another one. How do you extend the Metamodel? How do you create new schema?
Okay, so one of the things that I did not mention before is the zAgile infrastructure is based on some emerging technologies related to the semantic web. So the schema underneath is actually ontologies, if you will, and so it's basically developing ontologies for specific domains, if you will, if you want to extend it outside of software engineering. Or the other thing you can do is you can, the ontologies that come with the product are easily accessible and extensible, but they do require that you know something about developing ontologies. So it's very analogous to, I mean, relational schemas, for example. You can access it, you can go to the tables and add more columns and stuff, but you do need to know something about it. So the ontologies are easily, I mean, we have utilities, for example, that allow you to import, export ontologies into the repository, and so you can basically export, extend, add attributes and relations appropriate to how you want to capture information, and then just import it back in. So it's a very, very easy step, but it requires that you know something about creating or modifying ontologies.
Okay.
You can also use any ontology editor. So there's open source editors out there that make it very, very easy to work with ontologies.
All right. And here's a question. What's involved in retrofitting WikiSmart to existing spaces? And this particular person asking this question said they have about 100 spaces with 5,000 pages.
Right. Yeah, that's also a good question. So that's actually a tricky one, but I mean, we have considered it. The thing is that, first of all, we do provide the ability for you to add templates to existing pages. So that can be done very easily. And the idea there is that if you have existing content, as you mentioned, 5,000 pages, then you can go and start. You can begin to annotate the content, at least in simple ways. I mean, you can capture some information about it using templates, like, for example, document or author or reviewer or type or whatever. Whatever it might be reflecting. Maybe it's a requirements document, so you can add a template to it and just, type it using the template itself. Then what's a little bit harder is if you want to now segment a document or segment a page. So for example, if you have a page that has a bunch of paragraphs and each paragraph represents a requirement item, then that one is going to be a little bit more difficult, because the templates require that you capture information within the form widgets, and so those are not automatically extractable. So the short answer is annotating existing content is easy by just adding templates to any page using a menu option. However, then extracting more specific content from within a page and basically capturing it in a meaningful way using the templates will require a little bit of manual effort.
Okay. Here's an interesting one. What is your philosophy in not supporting ACID in Wicked Smart?
Well, I'm not sure that it's a philosophical issue. I guess I need a little bit more clarification on the question itself. I mean, okay. there's no specific, there's no sort of intentional thing here.
Okay. And right now might be a good time to let people know that we are doing a user group down in Palo Alto this coming Tuesday night in Palo Alto. So for any Bay Area customers listening in, you can go there and zAgile will be presenting. So you can ask some questions in person there, which is a good idea. I'm going to show a link later on, which is where you can get more information on that user group. So just a few more questions. Our time is kind of running out here. Is it possible to access the information entered in Somatic plugins macros like text data from the Confluence event listeners?
Actually, it is, but something that we would have to research more. And I also need a little bit more, I guess, clarification on what the intent would be to do that.
Okay.
I mean, the information that's in the repository and accessible in the macros is very easily accessible, almost anywhere. I mean, in Confluence or outside of Confluence, because it's just XML RPC-based interface. However, we haven't really looked yet at the Confluence event listeners, so, but we can definitely support it, obviously, if we understood it a little bit more.
Okay. And then one final question. What is the open source component of this that was mentioned in the presentation?
Yeah, again, a good question. So Wicked Smart is open source without the templates and the Metamodel. Our core infrastructure, which is basically the semantic framework that provides this glue that I discussed all along, that would allow you to integrate applications and tools across the organization, that's open source. And what we are making commercially available are really the solutions above it, which is the software engineering ontologies or metamodels and the templates and stuff related to application lifecycle management. So the idea behind open sourcing the core, particularly in the context of Confluence and our semantic framework, is to foster a community that can now take it and extend it with other metamodels, other domains, and also other solution sets.
Okay, excellent. I guess that does wrap up the questions that were chatted in. I'll go ahead and go to the next slide here. Here's the contact information I was telling you guys about. You can contact me at webinars@atlassian.com. And if anyone has ideas for future webinars or would like to participate in future webinars, please email that email there, webinars@atlassian.com. That'll go directly to me. If you have any questions for a presenter, as you can see there, I put up Sanjeev's email at snaf@zAgile.com. Feel free to email him. And for the fortunate people in the Bay Area, as I said earlier, on Tuesday there's a user group in Palo Alto. zAgile will be presenting and there to field any questions, as well as Doug from Atlassian. So definitely a good resource there. As I mentioned at the beginning of this presentation, this is a Plugin of the Month webinar. We do also have a Voice of the Customer webinar series, but this is for our plugin developers. It's become very popular, and you can learn more about our developers at atlassian.com/developers. This webinar is also being recorded, and I should be able to post it today, definitely by tomorrow, at atlassian.com/TV. So I wanted to thank all the people that joined us today. I wanted to thank you, zAgile, and everyone listening in for giving us your time today. Just a couple last things. We do have the new plugins.atlassian.com site up, and it's looking good. People are really enjoying how easy it is to search for plugins that they're looking after. You can browse by product. You can browse by the most popular, and then another thing that you can do in there is provide comments and feedback. So that's been a good site that we just launched recently, right around the Atlassian Summit. And then one last plug for some upcoming webinars. On the 13th of August, we have our Platinum Summit sponsor, Contigix. Jim Drews is going to be presenting Zeus, and that's their cloud computing offering. And then we don't have a date locked in yet, but in August will be, again, a Plugin of the Month webinar with Bryce Day from Catch Unlimited, and they'll be going over their enterprise tester. So with that, Sanjeev, I'd like to thank you.
Thank you, Morgan, and this is a great opportunity for us, so we'd like to thank Atlassian for this great event, and also everyone joining. Thank you.
All right, thank you, guys. And yeah, if you have any questions or concerns, feel free to just email those emails I provided earlier, and at the bottom there you can see atlassian.com/about/events. That's where you can find more information on the upcoming user group on Tuesday in Palo Alto. So with that, we'll sign off, and thank you, guys.
Thanks.